All right, so I hope that you enjoyed the readings. Quiz should have been pretty easy if you did the reading and those videos. So you might have noticed that some of the videos were very similar to one another, even though they were different tribes. And so that was kind of the point, right? That despite the fact that they were different tribes, they still had very similar beliefs. And in fact, as you were watching some of those videos, I'm hoping that you recognize that some of the beliefs in creation that came from these tribes actually sound reminiscent to maybe beliefs or religions that you partake in, and that's kind of the whole point of this. So, first and foremost, we're going to talk about Pima and Dr. Earth. His name is also Jawardamacai. So, Jawardamacai is the Dr. Earth who's creating people from the grease on his chest, right? Sounds very similar to Christianity when they say made in God's image. There's also the line, they made people out of the shadows of his eyes in the image of him, right? So I don't know, you could take it, read it as you would like, but that seems very reminiscent. So Jawardamacai went and murdered all people 3 times until he made them as perfect as he could. And that leads to, I believe, where we are at now. If I'm going to read that as telling the past versus telling the future. All right, so one of the things that we will recognize in pretty much a lot of the stories is animals, nature, and water, all of which are a part of creation here, especially within the tribe creation stories that I have for you here. One is that the animals help create the earth. Nu'ui, who is a buzzard, helps out with the Pima creation story. And the fact that water is a very big influence as well. The stars were made from water in the Pima creation story. And then so we'll do Iroquois, Ojibwe, and the Wisikajak, and how they are very similar, as it were. So for the Iroquois, one thing that you might have noticed is the lady who fell from the sky world. And we have to ask ourselves, sky world, would that be considered like how Christianity sees heaven? I don't know. Kind of to me is what I read it as. But that's because I come from a family where Christianity was, kind of the overarching religion that I understood. So anyway, so for me, I read heaven, but maybe for the Iroquois, they see heaven as sky world, right? So anywho, the woman as she falls from heaven, there's waters below. And again, this theme of water really does stand out in pretty much all of the religions that we cover here. One thing that also stands out is the turtles. So for the next 3 tribe creation stories we talk about, it includes this turtle that takes on or carries the burden of earth on its back. Okay, so as the woman in the Iroquois story is standing on the back of the turtle, they need earth in order to, farm all that stuff, right? To create food or to hunt or whatever, right? So, that being the case, she goes, I need some earth. And what does she do? She has someone who swims all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, and finally collects earth. Okay. And so, in the Iroquois story, it's a muskrat. Okay. In this particular story, they don't talk about the what happens to the muskrat like they do in the others. All right, so all the animals help spread the earth, and the sky woman walks, and before you know it, the earth is big, right? They spread the earth until it's big. Turtle is carrying the world on its shoulders. And Iroquois continues on further than the other stories where it talks about Mother Earth is then created. Ooh, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. All right, so mother is kind of a big theme within the Iroquois. Sometimes mothers are bigger themes in other religions too, or how we might see how to take care of the earth or land or people around us. Okay, on this one, they also talk about in the Iroquois creation story about how there are good sons and bad sons, like maybe you might say a yin and a yang, right? The one side versus the other that kind of in a way balance each other out, if you could call it balance at all. Okay, and then the one part about the Iroquois was talking about humans were constantly at war. Constantly at war. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But in the end, the idea here is then they had to separate each person to put them on, 4 corners of the world to prevent them from starting wars. which when you think about the four horsemen in the Christianity revelations, again, they talk about the four horsemen, how they all come together, and there's a world war. Anyway, so y'all can read more about that if you'd like. That's just something that I noticed that popped into my head. Okay, so the Ojibwe, again, Earth is flooded, mankind is wiped out, and they're starting over. Okay, Nana Bush is the person in this particular story who's on a log. Okay, before it was the woman was on a turtle. Now we're on a big log that's floating around because the earth was flooded because the people were terrible. And we're like, we're starting anew. Okay, now that they're on this log, like we have to start earth again. How do we do this? Well, here comes the muskrat swimming down, 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 all the way down, grabs the earth to bring it up so they can create earth. All right, and so the line that sticks out to me with the muskrat, and you will see this again, and for some reason I noticed there's a lot of Christianity ties. There could be others. Please, throw those out there as well. Muskrat sacrifices his life for, so that life on earth can start again. Okay, so now again, we have flooding, and if you recall in the Christian Bible, the Noah's Ark, right? So everything flooded, and then Noah with the animals ends up in a boat. Okay, so Nana Bush, same thing. They're on some flotation device with animals and they need to procreate, right? Need to start over again. Okay, muskrat sacrifices their life so that earth can start again, and the turtle yet again takes the burden of earth on its back so that it can recognize the muskrat. So right? I don't know if y'all are seeing some correlations here. Okay, so next we have the Wisay Kajak here, where again, another huge flood, water, just restart life, right? Purifying. There's just this consistent theme of water. Purifying when we talk about Christianity, right? When you get baptized, turning, we'll get that water into wine, that kind of thing. Anyway, so we have the Great Flood, we have boats, we have animals on the boats. The muskrat goes down again, sacrifices himself so that earth can start again. And then the turtle offers to bear the weight of the earth. Okay, then the wind blows and the earth grows and grows and grows. Okay, so here we are going, these sound awfully familiar, and that's the whole point, right? To find the similarities with things that we always thought were so different from ourselves. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. How, remember before we talk about others, it gives us a reason to hate. When we start to see the similarities, things don't become so much other anymore. They become, wow, we're pretty much believing the same thing, just in a different way. Okay, so when we talk about Buddha and Buddhism, which is kind of reminiscent again to Jesus and Christianity, where again, immaculate things happen in the form of either birth or conception. And so for Buddha and Buddhism, Buddha was born from his mother's side, who's apparently just leaning up on a tree, painless birth. He gives birth to Buddha. I don't have children because I don't want to go through childbirth, so tell me how. All right, so she's leaning on a tree. It is a painless birth. Oh, here we go. We have trees. All right, we have nature. We have something miraculous in the creation of Buddha. Okay, painless and pure appears another word that oftentimes you hear in religions. So after Buddha's death, Buddha's life, after his birth, he takes 7 steps. And for each step that he takes, a lotus flower springs up in his footsteps. If you know anything about the lotus flower, how do they grow? On top of water. Jesus walked on water. Oh, right? So then we have this. Again, we also have muddy water from Buddha. There's a story about muddy water in Buddha. You can take a look at that if you'd like. Give me 1 second. Okay, I had to turn off an alarm on my phone. All right. Next, we also have, if we want to look more about Buddhism, we'll talk about it in a second, about the 4 noble truths about human suffering. Okay, and again, it is humans, I think it was humans are born to suffer, something like that. I can't remember what that one is from. But anyway, there's a lot. Okay, and so now we have Jesus and Christianity. Again, miraculous conception. It was a summer birth. If you look back historically, it was a summer birth and it was with animals. Remember, animals are a huge part, yet again, of human creation in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the creation of our, the Savior, or however it is, there's always some kind of nature involved. So for the birth of humanity, we talk about Adam and Eve, right? So Eve was made from Adam's rib, but Adam himself was made from dust, or in God's images, or maybe the stars, right? I've had people talk about how we are born of stars. We are star dust. And that's always kind of a cool thought. All right. We are born of free will for Christianity. We'll look at Muslim in just a second. And again, some water themes for Christianity and Jesus. Again, Jesus walked on water. He turned water into wine. And what do you know? A very big flood, Noah's Ark. All right, so I don't know about you, but I am seeing some things crossing over each other that make you kind of go, oh, wow, that's crazy. These are all very similar. Okay, we're going to talk about Allah and the Muslim religion. So Allah is a man born of nature, okay, or man is born of nature. Evolution of man from dust. Man from dust. Pima creation story and Adam and Eve sounds awfully familiar. So Allah has created every animal from water. Animals from water? That sounds a lot like evolution. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second, okay? Of them are some that creep on their bellies. I would say snakes, Adam and Eve, okay? We have a little connection there. Some that walk on two legs, humans, okay? And then some that walk on all fours, and that would be our other four-legged walkers. Okay, anywho, so some things that do come from the Muslim religion here. So now indeed we create man out of the essence of clay. Man comes from earth, okay? All right, and then of the earth, we talk about clay, we talk about the Pima, the Iroquois story, the ones where the turtle is created. The earth is created from, on the turtle's back. So I feel like there's a correlation there too, because they're using earth, they're using dirt or soil or clay to create the earth. Okay. All right. So man is not created without a purpose. So hold on to that line, because man has that urge to feel purposeful. Purposeful is the biggest thing in humanity. For us to keep going and doing what we do, we need to feel like we have a purpose. So I love that line. That sticks out to me. And then Allah has granted man free will to choose between good and evil. We are coming back again to Christianity. We are also coming back to the Iroquois, the good and bad sons. So, man, there's a lot of, very similar things. I know I keep saying that. I'm just going to keep saying it. Okay, Wicca. All right, there are people out there who, for Wiccans, it is they adopt a more animalistic worldview of the universe. And it is as being replete with spirit beings, right? So now we, as a Wiccan, you would believe in animalistic views, which animalistic is. It perceives that all things, whether it's animals, plants, rocks, rivers, the weather systems, animal handiwork, and even words, right? When we talk about witches and creating spells, even words have power and life. All of it is alive and animated. All things have life. Okay, so in the Wiccan religion, that's the kind of a very quick summation of understanding that all things have life. Okay, again, the human and even the rock have the same type of animalistic life, as it were. Okay, all right. We have to throw in Satanism. It doesn't count if you don't throw in Satanism, right? Which the ironic part about Satanism was developed by Christians to create others, right? So the term Satan actually means adversary or to oppose. What do you know? Okay. So surfaced particularly when persecuting other religious groups during the events like the Inquisition, of course, witch hunts. Okay, that was one. Or witch hysterias. I would say more witch hysterias where, someone was maybe doing something Wiccan, which is, maybe working with the land in some way. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really know enough about being there in the real time. I only know of stories, so I couldn't tell you enough about that. So in Europe and colonial America, both, there was all kinds of witch hysteria. And then satanic panic of the 1980s. All right. So there's kind of irony in that Christianity created such an idea of other that people were like, you know, yeah, you're right, other, I'll take it, and then they go forth and just practice it. So again, neither here nor there. These are literally just the things that we're talking about. So theistic Satanists, they vernates Satan as a supernatural deity, viewing him not as an omnipotent person. So Satan would not be a god as much as they are a patriarch, right? So not a god, but someone who is like us, okay? Or a patriarch, not, you know, if we're going to talk about like our last reading, you know, not so much like us, but more human than godlike. Anyway, in contrast, atheistic Satanists regard Satan as a symbol of certain human traits. Okay, so a lot of times we can talk about human, what is it called? Human characteristics gone awry, human desires gone awry. Anyway, we could talk about that in a whole nother way. But anyway, that's exactly what they're talking about here is Satanism really not being more of a person, but as human traits just gone, you know, excessive. All right. In 1966, meetings became more ritualistic. They incorporated theatrics and costumes and music. So it was in 1966 that Satanism became more, I guess, ceremonial. All right. So one of my favorite mind-blowing parts about all of this, as we already see this whole correlation, they're all working together. Okay, we got a ball, they're there. The Hawaiian Kumulipo is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. Okay, so the Hawaiian Kumulipo, the evolution and creations chant, this was a chant. Its origin is kind of traced back to 1690, though I'm imagining it was far before that, but first recorded in 1690, which evolution starts with a coral polyp. Sounds a lot like water. Sounds a lot like evolution. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so take a look at the image to this side on our readings and lecture. The scientific taxonomy of evolution, right? Our understanding of evolution is actually set on one side, and then Kumulipo is actually right next to it. They are parallel, and the irony of this was that the Kumulipo was realized decades before Darwin even had it in his brain to consider evolution, all right, at the Galapagos Islands. Okay, anyway, so this also predates Einstein's space-time continuum, okay? It's just brilliant. I would like you to take a look at the Kumulipo versus the evolutionary taxonomy, or they would call it scientific taxonomy, and understanding the different ages. So how they have the sea life develop on evolutionary side. For the Hawaiian Kumulipo would be the marine invertebrates first appear, right? It's mind-blowing. Take a look at that, because these two things that you would want to go, they're nothing alike, they're like right next to each other verbatim. So that blows my mind. Again, evolution, we all came from water, right? That's the idea. To some extent, I'm simplifying it to the best of my abilities. And one thing that you're noticing, that what we're looking for when we're thinking of life on Mars is water, the presence of water, because humans cannot live outside of nature, especially if water does not exist. So water is the life source. There you go. Okay. Summation. Notice all incredible similarities and how much nature plays a part. Okay. As we look at these religions, we notice that nature is literally the whole of understanding how we as human beings seem to have been coming from. That's what it's looking like and what I'm seeing here. Okay, so nature has a huge part in humanity. Okay, now we're going to go real quick into a couple little mindsets, because these mindsets are going to lead us into the Crusades, and that's going to bring us to America. So just give me one little second here. Okay, the Toltecs, the 4 agreements of domestication. The idea is that there's a dream of a planet, and when you are born, you're kind of given an opportunity for attention. Like, as you are born, where does your attention go? And once you're born, as a parent, I give you, said information that you need to understand in order to become somebody a part of society. So because attention is hooked for the first time from the outside as a youngin, our whole world is projected to the outside as the source. Okay, so now we see the source. By the way, please read Four Agreements. It's a fantastic flipping book, but I'm trying to summate this to the best of my ability. So go ahead and read that as one of your readings too. Anyway, the whole idea is once we are born and are given the attention of understanding the source, what life is all about, that's when suffering begins. Okay, so humans suffer, once they become aware of what's really going on around them. Okay, if we're going to talk about that, and again, Toltec is a member of indigenous peoples that flourished way before the Aztecs ever came about down in Mexico. So, anyway, if that helps you. So, Buddha, we're going to go back to Buddhism. They have 4 noble truths, and there's 2 that I give you. One is the kind of more complicated, and there's like a simplified to kind of compare so you can understand what they are. So the 4 noble truths are: to live is to suffer. We are born into suffrage. Suffering. Okay. And the simplified version is sometimes we're sad. I like the word suffering so that we can get an understanding of what that means. All right. Sometimes we are to live is to suffer. That's kind of the line. I just like the way they put it there. All right. Suffering is caused by desire. And I'm telling you, that is probably the biggest truth I've ever experienced in life. If you get rid of your expectations, then you're never disappointed. I'm not saying that's 100% possible, but the less expectations you have on life, who you are, and what other people should be doing around you, your life gets a hell of a lot better. So I'm going to say suffering is caused by desire. So sometimes the things that make us sad is not getting what we want. Okay, yeah. Or not getting something getting something we don't want, right? So suffrage comes from desire or not getting what we wanted. Not getting what we wanted or getting something we didn't want. Okay. All right. So suffering can be overcome. So we can actually overcome suffering. Okay. There's a way to not be sad about not getting what you want or by not getting something you don't want. Okay. So there is a way around it. And the way around it is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the solution is pretty much the solution to suffering. To simplify that, it's just to be good to all people and things. The simplified version here is the way not to think so much about what you want at all is to think about other people. So once you stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about other people, all of a sudden your desires disappear and so does your suffering. Ta-da! All right, so but instead think about how you can be kind and helpful to your family, your friends, your teachers, all right, your animals, bugs, everything around you. In fact, that being the case, I'm going to show you, it's a little clip from 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt. And so, of course, it's Hollywood. Hollywood just is Hollywood. But take a look at it really quick, and we're going to kind of come back and have a little quick discussion about it. For any of you who are Tibetan or have any of these beliefs, these Buddhist beliefs, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. I am doing the best that I can with what I have. So go ahead and take a look at this, and we'll be right back.